Now with Congressman Ted Poe as promised, the Texas Republican who is a member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. Ted, we thank you for joining us via telephone this morning. You've heard the talk. Douglas MacArthur McCain, a 33-year-old American killed fighting for ISIS against the Free Syrian Army. What about this whole thing? What else have you heard, Ted?
Well, we need to change his name to Benedict Arnold first. And, of course, he is one of, I think, many individuals who are Americans that have traveled looking to fight for ISIS. They're wrapped up in this jihadist hate campaign. And we don't know, I say we don't know, there are several that have joined these forces, and we have to be mindful of that, because when they have a passport, then they will, of course, try to come back into the United States. So we have to be very careful about these individuals, and I think certainly keep up with them and where they're going, and then when they try to come back into the United States, they need to be held accountable and when they return to the U.S.
Ted, I have heard estimates anywhere from 100 to 300 passports held by Americans who may be in that troubled region of the world, who may have joined the Islamist cause. Do you have better numbers on it? How many Americans do you believe are doing this?
The exact number is probably exact where you're talking about, 100 to 300, somewhere in that vicinity. I do not know the exact number, but I think your estimate is correct.
Well, let's move from that to the other curious thing about this. When this was announced, it was almost buried in the midst of a travel advisory of all things. Now, look, I don't know many Americans outside of diplomats and those in government service going to that area, except for jihadists. Why would they put it out under a travel advisory?
I'm not sure. It's ironic that the State Department releases that type of information under a travel advisory. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me either.
Well, they claim they knew all about Douglas MacArthur McCain. State Department spokesman Jen Psaki responding to the ISIS threat in her press briefing yesterday. Here is what she had to say about Americans fighting on the side of ISIS.
We've increased our capacity, we've increased our tracking, we've increased our coordination, but clearly this is a threat that we take seriously enough to put it at the front and center of our agenda.
So Jen Psaki there on CNN. In your mind, Ted, was she informing us or just basically doing damage control?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think both. She's doing damage control, and she's doing just giving basic information that we're all aware of anyway, that we have Americans who have left the United States with American passports that have gone to fight for this barbarian terrorist group. That is very disturbing, and I think we should certainly keep up with those individuals and find out, exactly how many more are being recruited, and keep up with them as well.
Ted, we are receiving reports that America is working with its allies to try to put together a more coordinated attack against ISIS. Anything you can add to those reports?
That's exactly what the U.S. is doing. There, at least the United States is talking to some countries in the region to see if there's going to be an overall strategy. When it comes to ISIS and their expanse of aggression, administration, I think, needs to be talking to Congress, and Congress needs to weigh in on what the role of the U.S. should be on this terrorist group before we get too far down the road with the president's ability or his claim that he can just do what he wants to. So Congress should be involved in this. Yes, we should be talking to stable governments in the region, but at the end of the day, the United States is going to have to look out for the national security interest of the United States, not so much the national security interest of other nations. And I think that is our goal and our purpose for taking on ISIS.
Well, Ted, about 4.5 minutes remain, and let's shift the focus now to the United States and what could happen here on our shores. One American general has been quoted as saying he believes ISIS and others may be looking at the date 9/11 for more attacks. Do you believe there's a real temptation on the part of the Islamo-fascist to try to do something again here on that date of 9/11?
Historically, they celebrate 9/11 by trying to do some terrorist act again. That is their anniversary for their attack on the United States, as we all know. It would not surprise me that there would be some type of jihadist aggression against the United States on 9/11. That's their date. Specifically, I can't answer that question because I don't know, but I think that is a day that they like to celebrate killing Americans and other people who don't agree with them.
And of course, on 9/11/2001, any number of Saudis came in with passports for all intents and purposes, legally. But let's turn our attention now to the southern border, lost amidst all these new headlines, the ongoing influx of illegals. And before we get a status report, there's something in particular that our parent website, newsmax.com, is citing on the website, and that is a recent Pew Research poll saying that 34% of Mexicans would come to the United States if they could. 17% would come whether legally or illegally. 1 out of 3 Mexicans has either friends or relatives now living in the United States. The claim from Pew is that's down 10% since 2007. 44% of Mexicans believe they'll have a better life in America. Again, Pew claims that's down 7% since 2007. And 67% disapprove of the direction of Mexico. Interesting, this study comes out right about now when the Mexican president has been visiting Sacramento, and Governor Jerry Brown in California says we welcome Mexicans whether legal or not. Ted, has California become, like Victor Davis Hanson wrote, Mexifornia?
It sounds like Governor Brown just wants to have Mexico and California at least have no border between the two countries, and that's apparently the way that I hear his rhetoric and what he said to the Mexican president. Just have a borderless society between the United States and Mexico in California. Of course, that's great news for people who want to come into the United States. All people who want to come here without proper documents.
Ted, I went through a litany of numbers in that Pew Research poll. Anything surprising there? Your reaction, or given the curious timing with suspected unilateral executive action, what do you think is the purpose behind the poll? What do you think of the numbers?
Well, of course, people in Mexico want to come to the United States. The Mexican government has corruption issues. There's corruption all along the Mexican side of the border with the United States. People want to come here, and they know that they can. They hear from our president constantly that if you get to the United States, you're going to be able to stay, whether you come legally or illegally.
And less than a minute remains, Ted. Less than a minute remains. Let me ask you this. Do you expect our president to issue the executive order that will grant amnesty to millions of illegals? Do you think that's going to happen?
I think the president will issue some type of executive order regarding immigration and the people that are here illegally already. I expect that to happen before Congress gets back into session. I certainly do. I hope it doesn't, but I think he will do something like that.
And when it does, you will be in Congress there to answer that or try to do something about it. Ted Poe of Texas, as always, we thank you for your insights. Thanks again for joining us this morning. So,
thank you, JD.
Thank you. So you just heard from the congressman. What's your take on it? Why don't you tweet me your thoughts on these disturbing stories at newsmax.com, #America's Forum, and we'll be right back.